Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving straight into what is literally a grim, dark, gothic fable of absolute cosmic proportions. We are going to explore a massive philosophical clash that sits right at the very heart of this story. It's the ultimate battle between perfect, absolute, clinical order on one side and the messy, undeniable reality of biological existence on the other. And to really unpack the deep lore of the Sapphire Forge, we'll be using a classic Fichtean dialectic, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. It's a wild, incredibly thought-provoking journey, so let's get into it. Right off the bat, we're hit with this incredibly haunting contradiction from the sources. This perfectly frames the deep philosophical divide we're exploring. On one hand, you have what's called the mercy of nothingness, this terrifying idea that true ultimate peace can only be found if you completely erase all the friction of life. But on the other hand, you have this loud, weeping existence, the chaotic, eternal tragedy of a living soul. It essentially poses the ultimate question. Is it actually better to be perfectly still and feel absolutely nothing, or to be alive, hurting, and just messy?
So, how does this universe actually try to answer that question? Well, looking through our Fichtean lens, we have to start with a seriously chilling concept that the texts call the arithmetic of the overman. The Sapphire Forge operates on this strict, mathematical, entirely clinical logic. Its whole purpose, literally its entire reason for existing, is to erase what it views as thermodynamic noise. And what exactly is that noise? Well, it's us. It's subjective human experience, it's emotion, it's suffering. This arithmetic is trying to mathematically solve the problem of biological existence.
To really see this cosmic conflict, you have to look at how starkly divided the stage is. As our thesis, we have the Sapphire Matrix, which is this domain of clinical sapphire certainty and just absolute stillness. And directly opposing it, acting as our antithesis, is the distant Red Room, also known as the Blazing Abyss. And that is a place of fiery, completely uncontainable agony. Now, these aren't just physical locations. They are two entirely opposed philosophies of existence violently crushing into one another. Let's start by looking at our thesis, the Sapphire Matrix and geometric symmetry. The Sapphire Matrix is described in the sources as a forced utopia. Picture this. It's defined by a cold, clinical blue radiance and incredibly rigid geometric symmetry. There is absolutely zero warmth here. The entire goal of this matrix is to secure and maintain the ultimate mass-energy balance of the cosmos. And it actually does this through a vast grid of silent blue stars. But here's the catch. These aren't just stars. They are a definitive physical record of concluded lives. It's designed that way to ensure the math stays completely uncontaminated by the kinetic friction of human chaos. Running this whole operation within the cold utopia is an entity known as the Jester of Sapphire Light. And his vibe? The texts call it total aesthetic detachment. The Jester views all of biological existence, literally every triumph, all our weeping, every ounce of sorrow, as nothing more than data. It's raw material that just needs to be processed, filed away, and silenced. He essentially acts as the ultimate clinical catalyst, the necessary fire. The Jester and the Matrix actually share a singular terrifying dedication, which is the pursuit of industrial finality. They are actively, relentlessly trying to achieve that mercy of nothingness we talked about. They honestly believe that by completely removing the kinetic friction of human experience, they're offering a cure to the eternal tragedy of life. It's a fascinating but terrifyingly sterile kind of salvation. But narrative inertia can't just be stilled forever, which brings us to our antithesis, the Crimson Dragon and the Blazing Abyss. High above this matrix, a mythic disruption actually takes to the sky. A crimson dragon appears as a herald, pointing toward a distant, incredibly stark beacon of heat known as the Red Room. So if the Sapphire Matrix is cold, perfectly still and blue, the Red Room is the absolute opposite. It's a fiery beacon that represents the loud, weeping existence of the soul in its most raw, volatile state. This crimson dragon is out there loudly proclaiming the glory of the heavens and the agony of the blazing abyss. Notice the words there, glory and agony. That introduces a massive moral weight that the Jester's clinical math simply doesn't know how to process. The dragon's voice completely shatters that total aesthetic detachment, basically declaring that existence isn't a math equation you can just balance. It's a blazing fire that has to be endured. And this tension right here highlights the ultimate philosophical stakes of our explainer. What the Sapphire Matrix so coldly dismisses as just thermodynamic noise, or a systemic error, is actually fierce, undeniable biological insistence. It is the eternal tragedy of the living. It's life, basically screaming out, "I am here and I matter, even if I am messy." The tension between these extremes forces a violent synthesis. Let's look at verdant corruption and the emerald transition. We can literally track the jester's descent chronologically here. He starts out in the clinical sapphire matrix, surrounded by that cold blue radiance. But as the biological insistence of the universe starts to infect him, that pristine blue flickers and bleeds into a sickly, pulsing emerald. This forces him to step through a threshold of narrative inertia into the green chamber, which acts as a liminal gateway to the uncanny forest. From there, he is inevitably drawn toward the fierce, biological heat of the red room. The clinical blue and the fiery red mix into this completely corrupted green. During this transition into the uncanny forest, the jester physically unravels. That rigid geometric symmetry of the forge, it's completely disrupted. Dark green energy, which is this incredibly vibrant, chaotic force, physically coils around his limbs. His eyes, which used to be these twin points of clinical blue, start glowing with a corruptive emerald fire. He is literally being infected by the very chaos and ink, the thermodynamic noise that he was originally designed to dismantle. It's a total 180-degree reversal of his purpose. This dark green energy pierces his detachment and totally defies the arithmetic of the overman. The jester stops being the clinical necessary fire and transforms into what the texts actually call a corrupted sanctuary. Instead of distilling sorrow down into silent artifacts, he becomes a gaping maw for unassimilated voltage. He gets completely overwhelmed by the loud, weeping existence of the soul. Now, this epic unraveling isn't happening in a vacuum. Let's discuss the celestial oversight of the last thinker. The entity known as the last thinker realizes he can't just passively watch this happen from the safety of the stilled matrix. To maintain celestial oversight of the jester's descent, the thinker actually abandons his physical interface with the system. He adopts a massive, multi-limbed arachnid form so he can navigate the chaotic, uncanny forest. And using what's called prehensile logging, he methodically records every single moment of the jester's transformation into this gaping maw of internal consciousness. Just picture that scene for a second. Massive cybernetic legs clicking through a dark, green-lit forest, recording the ultimate irony. The jester, the catalyst who once distilled biological drama, is now entirely consumed by it. The concentrated sorrow of the universe flat out refuses to yield to the arithmetic of stillness. The kinetic friction of existence proves undeniably that life and suffering cannot be contained by a sapphire ledger. Which leaves us with a final, massive question to wrap things up. The Sapphire Forge tried to force a utopia through absolute sterile order, but as we've seen through this Gothic Fichtean fable, the universe entirely rejected it. So we really have to ask ourselves, is the mercy of nothingness truly a salvation? Or is the loud, weeping existence of the soul an inevitable, beautiful tragedy that simply cannot be mathematically solved? Something to think about.